Tehran, Iran, 11 kilometers north of Azadi Tower, 2:40 in the morning, 124 U.S. Army Rangers from the 75th Ranger Regiment were moving toward the Night Crown War Room beneath an IRGC command compound. Inside the gates, 386 Iranian forces guarded 14 senior IRGC commanders, 3 hardened server halls, and the main crisis bunker. The Rangers had 90 minutes to take it all. The Night Crown War Room sat under a concrete command block built into a low ridge on the north side of the city. The compound controlled emergency missile orders, drone routes, air defense alerts, and crisis calls between Tehran and IRGC field units. Iran believed the site could survive any fast strike because it had 3 perimeter rings, 2 underground levels, 6 guard towers, blast doors, and backup power in sealed rooms. The outer fence held cameras every 40 meters and overlapping fire from DSK heavy guns, PKM machine guns, and 2 ZU-23-2 anti-aircraft guns turned down toward the approach roads. Inside the compound, 48 men protected the command block, 96 men held the barracks and vehicle yard, 122 men guarded the bunker level, and 120 more sat in reserve with AK-74 rifles, RPG-7 launchers, and 14 armored trucks. Iranian forces believed any attacker would need hours to break in. The U.S. Army Rangers planned to finish the job in 90 minutes. Alpha Element had 34 U.S. Army Rangers and the main breach mission on the West Wall. Bravo Element had 30 U.S. Army Rangers and the task of cutting the North Barracks away from the bunker. Charlie Element had 28 U.S. Army Rangers and the direct push down to the underground war room. Delta Element had 32 U.S. Army Rangers with MK11 Mod 0 rifles, MK48 Mod 0 guns, 2 M240B machine guns, and 1 Carl Gustav M3 to seal the eastern road, stop reinforcement, and cover extraction. 2 drones watched overhead. 1 AC-130 stayed outside the city. 4 helicopters waited low behind the hills. At 2:44, the assault began. Alpha moved first through a drainage cut 70 meters from the west wall. Bravo crawled up the North Service Road. Charlie stacked behind Alpha with breaching frames and 18 kilograms of C4. Delta split into 3 firing points overlooking the east gate and the main access lane. The first shots came from suppressed MK18 CQBR carbines. Tower guards fell before they could key their radios. Then 2 shaped charges struck the west wall and opened a gap 4 meters wide. For 11 seconds, the Iranian forces inside the compound did not understand what was happening. 1 reserve truck started toward the breach and hit a linear charge laid across the lane. The blast flipped the front axle and blocked the road. Alpha rushed through dust and broken concrete. 2 Rangers pulled left and cut power to the nearest camera box. 4 more fired M4A1 SOP Mod 2 carbines into the guardroom windows. Bravo crossed the north ditch, shot out 3 floodlights, and stormed the barracks entrance before the men inside could form a line. At 2:46, the fight spread across the whole compound. Alpha cleared the west offices room by room. Doors opened, short bursts followed. A PKM gun opened from a stairwell. An Alpha gunner dropped flat, slid his MK48 Mod 0 onto a broken desk, and fired 22 rounds through the railing. The gun went silent. Behind him, a breacher placed date cord on a steel service door. It blew inward. Charlie pushed into the corridor leading to the bunker ramp. Iranian forces on the north side now knew this was not a probe, it was a full raid. Barracks guards ran into the yard with body armor half closed and rifles still on slings. Bravo hit them from two sides. One Ranger fired an M249 SAW across the parking row, while another sent 40 rounds through the windshield of a command van. 3 Iranian forces tried to mount a DHK behind sandbags. A Carl Gustav M3 round hit the gun pit and tore it apart. At 2:48, Charlie reached the first blast door. It was sealed from below. A breacher fixed a shaped charge on the locking wheel, turned away, and fired it. The wheel split, the door sagged off center. Charlie shoved it open and ran into a sloped tunnel 30 meters long. Iranian forces at the far end had built a fast barricade from desks and steel crates. Charlie did not stop. 2 Rangers rolled flash grenades under the barrier. A third man stepped up with an M320 and sent 2 high explosive rounds into the stack. The path opened. Charlie moved through smoke and broken wood. At 2:50, Delta saw the first outside reaction. 6 armored trucks raced down the east road with headlights off. Delta had already ranged the lane. The lead truck hit an AT-4 round and stopped sideways. The second truck swerved into the ditch. Iranian forces jumped out and tried to spread. MK11 Mod 0 rifles cracked from the ridge. An M24 OB cut the road in half. A second AT-4 smashed the 4th truck and set off its fuel. The rest reversed out of sight. Inside the command block, Alpha found the first hardened control room. 3 Iranian forces fired from behind console banks with AK-74 rifles. Alpha broke the angle, entered through both doors, and killed them in 7 seconds. A Ranger pulled thermite grenades from his pack and dropped them onto 8 server towers, 3 radio racks, and a bank of encrypted phones. Sparks sprayed across the floor. The screens went black. In the next room, 2 officers tried to burn documents in a steel bin. Alpha shot both men and bagged the maps. At 2:52, Bravo hit the vehicle yard. Iranian forces there had recovered enough to resist in groups. A PKM gun from the motor pool pinned 6 Rangers behind a fuel wall. Bravo answered with a Javelin fired in direct attack mode at 90 meters. The missile ripped through the shed, detonated spare ammunition, and blew the roof apart. 2 Rangers ran across open ground, reached the workshop door, and cleared the bay with M4A1 fire. They found 5 reserve fighters hiding under a truck and took them prisoner. Iranian forces in the lower bunker finally organized a defense. They knew the war room mattered more than the surface buildings. They sealed 2 side halls, posted 18 men behind concrete turns, and aimed 3 RPG-7 launchers down the central ramp. At 2:54, Charlie hit that defense head-on. The first rocket streaked wide and burst against the tunnel roof. Dust dropped everywhere. Charlie answered with speed. 1 Ranger fired 9 rounds from a MK18 CQBR, while another bounced 2 grenades off the sidewall. The blast killed the rocket team. Then Charlie drove deeper, firing short bursts, stepping over bodies, and dragging 1 wounded Ranger forward by his armor handle so the column did not stop. By 2:56, the U.S. Army Rangers had broken the compound into 4 isolated fights. Alpha owned the west offices and the upper command floor. Bravo held the barracks, the north yard, and 9 parked vehicles. Charlie controlled the ramp and the first bunker junction. Delta owned the east road and outer gate. Iranian forces still had numbers, but they could no longer move those numbers from one point to another. Every hallway, stairwell, and lane now ended in American fire. At 2:58, Iranian forces tried their best counterattack. 36 men from the reserve block came south through a maintenance cut and aimed for Charlie's rear. Bravo saw them on drone feed first and shifted 8 Rangers into the alley between the kitchen wing and the generator shed. When the column entered the gap, Bravo opened with a MK48 Mod 0, 2 M4A1 carbines, and one M249 SAWW. 19 Iranian forces fell in the first burst of contact. The rest broke for cover behind water tanks. A Ranger fired an M320 airburst above the tanks. Shrapnel ended the attack. At 3 o'clock, Charlie reached the second blast door, the last barrier before the night crown chamber. This door was thicker and locked by 3 sliding bars. The breacher taped 2 shaped charges across the center seam and added 4 kilograms of C4 at the base. The detonation punched a gap knee-high. 2 Rangers widened it with pry bars. Charlie crawled through one by one and entered a low service gallery running behind the war room walls. Iranian forces inside heard the blast and opened fire through maintenance grates. Rounds cut sparks from the pipes. Charlie answered through the grates and kept moving. At 3:02, Alpha dropped down the south stairwell to link with Charlie. The landing was defended by 11 Iranian forces with a PKM on a tripod. Alpha leader threw a grenade short of the gun, forcing the crew to duck, then rushed the turn with 5 Rangers. 3 men fired M4A1 soap mod 2 carbines. As they moved, another shoved a shield into the doorway. The PKM crew died under point-blank fire. Alpha joined Charlie at the gallery junction and pushed east toward the command center doors. Above ground, Bravo and Delta faced the next threat. 2 pickup trucks carrying 14 Iranian forces with DSHK guns tried to cut through a side gate at 3:04. Delta hit the first truck with an MK19 grenade launcher taken from the gate post. The cab burst open. Bravo fired on the second truck as it turned too hard and rolled into the curb. Survivors jumped clear and ran into the wall of the vehicle depot. 6 Rangers from Bravo crossed the open lane, pinned them there, and ended the fight in less than 1 minute. At 3:06, the strategic picture was turning hard against Iranian forces. The surface compound had lost both guard towers on the west side, both reserve vehicle exits, the north barracks, the motor pool, 1 radio room, and 2 backup generators. The bunker still held the war room and a side archive, but the men defending it had no clean route out and no steady feed from the upper floors. U.S. Army Rangers were now fighting downhill into the last command spaces, while Delta kept Tehran reinforcements outside the walls. At 3:08, Charlie reached the final double doors. They were steel-faced and barred from inside, with filing safes pushed against them. And a breacher set a linear charge across the hinges. The blast tore the doors free. Charlie flooded the room. The night crown chamber was 18 meters wide with a central map table, 24 wall screens, and 3 enclosed glass stations. 14 Iranian forces fired from the far side near the raised command pit. Charlie split left and right. An M4A1 hit the first glass booth. A MK18 cut down 2 men behind the map table. 1 Ranger put controlled fire into the last active screen bank so no order could go out. At 3:10, the hardest fight of the raid began. 22 Iranian forces from the inner security platoon poured in from a side archive and caught Charlie on the right flank. The room filled with AK-74 fire. 1 U.S. Army Ranger was hit in the chest plate and knocked back. Another took a round through the calf. Alpha answered instantly. A Ranger on the left side braced his MK48 Mod 0 on the edge of the map table and fired a long burst across the archive mouth. A second man threw 2 grenades into the archive hall. Charlie then crossed the room in pairs, 1 firing, 1 moving, until the surviving defenders were trapped behind a low wall near the main consoles. Back in the war room, Charlie and Alpha finished it with steady method. 2 Rangers climbed onto the command pit and shot down into the final pocket. Another kicked open a cabinet line where 3 guards hid with pistols and killed them at arm's length. A 4th Ranger put thermite onto the central servers, while a 5th cut power cables with an axe. At 3:14, the Night Crown War Room was secured. 4 senior IRGC commanders lay dead, 6 were wounded, 4 were captured alive with signal codes, route books, and emergency contact binders. Bravo now moved below ground to help hold the objective. At 3:16, they cleared the side archive and the lower communications room. In the archive, 7 Iranian forces tried to hold behind steel shelves. Bravo fired 2 grenades through the gaps, then finished the survivors with M4A1 carbines. In communications, 3 operators attempted to wipe hard drives. Bravo shot 2 of them and captured 1 alive. At 3:20, the withdrawal began. Prisoners went first, pushed between Bravo and Delta. Wounded Rangers followed with 2 men on each stretcher. Alpha stayed last in the bunker and placed final C4 packs on the map table supports and under the raised command pit. When the last man reached the ramp, Alpha triggered the charges, the chamber folded inward, fire rolled through the gallery. Smoke drove up the stairwell and out through the broken surface offices. By 3:32, the U.S. Army Rangers were airborne. 30 seconds later, the timed charges in the compound fired in sequence. The fuel point erupted first, then the motor pool, then the West Command block roof dropped into itself. At 3:34, the buried bunker charges detonated and collapsed the Night Crown chamber, the side archive, and the lower communications room. Iranian forces on the street watched the center of their command site sink into smoke, concrete dust, and broken cable. The raid lasted 48 minutes from first breach to final lift. U.S. Army Rangers lost 3 killed and 11 wounded. Iranian forces lost 147 killed, 96 wounded, and 41 captured. The Rangers destroyed 14 trucks, 3 armored cars, 2 ZU-23-2 guns, 3 DSHK positions, 1 PKM bunker nest, 1 motor pool, 2 generators, 1 radio mast, 3 server halls, and the Night Crown War Room itself. The total damage to facilities, vehicles, electronics, and command systems reached $286 million. Iran believed the Night Crown War Room could direct a regional crisis from the center of Tehran without fear of a fast ground raid. What actually happened was that 124 U.S. Army Rangers broke its defenses, killed its command staff, seized its records, and destroyed the site in less than 1 hour. Iranian forces had walls, blast doors, heavy guns, and numbers. What they did not have was 124 U.S. Army Rangers willing to take the impossible task and finish it before dawn.